Hi. So today we're going to be talking about the intrinsic joy of Sukkot. And at first, it seems like kind of a simple topic, like a straightforward topic, like, oh, okay, so there's clearly just a question and then there's going to be an answer. But really, it's so deep. It's so deep. So what is Sukkot at first glance? We've been sitting in the sukkah, eating our meals there, hopefully, and either way, we see this weird hut. So what is it? The first thing we see is that it's a surrounding. It's kind of like a shield. And Hashem, we're being surrounded by Hashem in this hut that we go into. So it's like kind of like God's house. Then a different layer. These are all the outer layers of the question, what is intrinsic joy of Sukkot? The second layer is that it's a symbol of unity. All the Jewish people, they go out of their houses on Sukkot and they go into these huts, these Sukkot outside. And all the Jewish people, no matter what kind of house you live in, everyone's going out to the sukkah on this special holiday. So it's kind of like there's this funny story that the Chidushe Harim, a Hasidic master, Rav Yitzchak Meir Alter of Ger, the Ger dynasty. And he tells this story of he went to this town, and on his way out from this town, he was giving some of these followers went to go. They wanted to get a bracha from this great rabbi. So the rabbi was leaving in his carriage, and all of a sudden, people started running after him. They started running after his carriage. And this well-dressed man was running after his carriage to get a bracha from the rabbi. And all of a sudden, he's running, and the rabbi does not slow down to give him a bracha. He keeps running, and eventually, he drops something. And finally, and he keeps on running. And finally, at that point, the rabbi stops, and he says, and he's willing to give the man a bracha. And he says, why are you willing to give me a bracha now, like at this point? And he says, because you dropped something. You dropped your umbrella. Sometimes if you want to get a bracha, you have to leave behind something. So if you want to get to this intrinsic joy of Sukkot, you have to leave your homes and go to this sukkah. And that's where you're going to find this intrinsic joy of Sukkot, which we're going to explain, which is so deep, and it's going to be great. So that's the first glance. The first glance is that it's this God's house. We're surrounded by God's presence in this sukkah of unity that all the Jewish people are going out to. That's the first glance. Now let's take a step back. So each holiday has its own name, like Yom Hadin, and that's for Rosh Hashanah. And the name of the day, the name that the day is given, that goes according to the theme of the day. But Sukkot is called Zman Simchatinu, a time of happiness or joy. And so according to everything we just assume or know when we first look at Sukkot, what does Zman Simchatinu, a time of joy, have anything to do with Sukkot, us going out into these weird huts? So what's the connection? Like, what are we missing? Okay, so to understand that, we have to go back a little bit further in time. In the times of the Beis HaMikdash, there were daily sacrifices that were offered to Hashem. Every day when there was a sacrifice, it was offered with wine. So that was called the Nisuch Hayayin. And any time that there was an offering, they poured wine on top of the altar, the Mizbeach. Now, there's a unique attribute of Sukkot, where instead of them pouring wine on top of the offering that was being offered on the Mizbeach, they poured water. And this is called the Nisuch Hamayim. And now, they took this water and they poured it on top of the offering. So again, at face value, the significance of this water is that it's at this time that we start praying for rain. In our Shemona Esrei, we start praying for rain. And we're starting to ask for rain, so therefore we use the water as a symbol of the rain. So that's just face value. But of course, there's so much more, there's a deeper meaning behind this. So the pouring of the water is celebrated with a special celebration called the Simchas Beis HaShoeva. And this celebration was an incredibly joyous time for Klal Yisrael. So Rashi points out that the drawing of the water fulfills the verse in Yeshaya, which says, Ushavte mayim b'sason, which means, and you shall draw water joyously. So what is this Simchas Beis HaShoeva? The Mishnah says that whoever did not see the rejoicing of this Beis HaShoeva, this celebration that was celebrating the drawing of the water and pouring it on top of the sacrifice, had never seen joy a day in their lives. So what's the deal? Like, what does this simcha of the Beis HaShoeva, the celebration of pouring water over the Mizbeach on Sukkot, which they only did on Sukkot and not on any other time? What is the significance? Why does this give us simcha? What does this have anything to do with anything? And what is so deep about this that it was the cause of so much simcha, and it's actually the cause of why Sukkot is given the name Zman Simchatenu. Like, so what is this all about? So, as I said before, there's first the first layer of meaning, and then there's the deeper layers. And as we peel back the different layers, we get to deeper and deeper meanings and understandings. So, one aspect is that when we have the Nisu Hamayim, the pouring of the water onto the Mizbeach, we're focusing on the action. We're focusing on the action of drawing out the water. You draw the water and then you pour it on. And in life, we're always jumping from one activity to the next. We're so busy. We have class, we have studying, we have friends. We have so many different aspects of our lives and family that we have to balance. And we're always just so busy. And a lot of times we will think that the purpose of life is so much greater and bigger than these small actions that our life is made up of. But really, with here, the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, we're celebrating the drawing of the water itself. We're celebrating the action of drawing out. So we're celebrating the action of doing, the action of every single thing that's making up our life. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is that the water is a direct connection to Hashem, sort of relating to what we were talking about before with in the Sukkah, we're being surrounded by Hashem's presence. It's like a blanket. It's like a bubble of Hashem's presence that we go into the Sukkah and we're surrounded by Hashem's presence. And so the water also is a direct connection to Hashem. It comes straight from a source and goes right back to Hashem. Rav Yitzchak Hutner, who was a rabbi in America in more modern times, he explained, we draw from the source and pour back to the source, one continuous flow without interruption in the middle. So this is one action, and it's connecting our everyday actions to the greater picture, which we think is which can be a thing that can seem kind of far away. But really, it's connecting. The water is connecting the actions, the everyday, like getting the water, drawing out the water, and like our actions that lead to the great picture and like our purpose in life. Right. So this has to do with all the Jewish holidays that we just finished. We just came out of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And on these days, we are focusing on tshuva, and we were working on ourselves, and we were working on our things that we did wrong in the past year, and we were trying to become better, and we were trying to figure out what we could do better in the coming year. And everything in the Jewish calendar has meaning behind it, and there's no coincidence. It's not like one holiday goes into the next holiday just randomly. All the Jewish holidays are connected. Every day in the Jewish calendar is full with meaning. So now, right after we just went through and experienced Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we have this clear channel, this clear connection to Hashem. The water goes straight through. It's a direct connection to Hashem. And finally, another way we can understand this Nisu Hamayim, the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, is that Sukkot is a holiday of simplicity. Simplicity. Water is the substance of life. We sit in the sukkah and we're surrounded by God's presence, as we've mentioned. Now, for Sukkot, all we have to do is walk into the sukkah, understand and tap into the simcha of the Simchas Beis HaShoeva of the day. And that's it. And you're automatically in this bubble of Hashem's presence. And it's just as simple as that. Usually it's hard. This simcha is something hard. Like I said, we're all so busy. We have so much going on in our lives. And if you ask people, a lot of times you'll ask people how things are going, and you're kind of just like, hey, what's up? And someone will be like, oh, it's complicated, or wow, life is so busy. And sometimes you go over to someone and you're saying, hey, what's up? And you kind of just expect the average answer, like, nothing much, you. But really, like, that's not what life is. Life is complicated. Life is full of just so many different layers and aspects. And sometimes it could be hard to be filled with this simcha that we're supposed to do. Every action that we do, there's two levels. You could do one level, which is the base, just like the way you're supposed to do something, or you could do it with simcha, with a special joy and happiness, right? So this is like a really high level. And usually it's complicated, but on Sukkot, it's straightforward. You go into the sukkah and you're surrounded by Hashem's presence, and you're in simcha. It's the day of simcha. It's zman simchatenu. It's the time in the place of happiness, of joy. So this is like a really high level. Usually it's hard to acquire this simcha. And furthermore, it's hard to acquire being simple. This simplicity that is intrinsic in the day of Sukkot. Like, we go out, everyone goes out to the sukkah. It's a hut with walls and branches on top. Like, how much more simply could you live? You're supposed to dwell in this sukkah, right? And so you dwell in the sukkah, and it's just a simple living. And again, just like simcha is hard to come by because it's complicated. Life is full of complications. Again, on Sukkot, we have this simplicity, and it's just such an elevated thing. Like the Rabbi Simcha Bunim of Peshiska, he would say that a simple Jew is kadosh, is holy. And we think that we think that being simple is a low standard, but really, if you actually think about it, it's a really high standard. To be able to say, like, I'm just taking this simply, and having this simplicity, this inner peace is a really high, lofty level to get at. So on Sukkot is this day which has an intrinsic joy in it, and it's just all you need to do is walk into the sukkah and tap into the power of the intrinsic joy of Sukkot. Let's see. If anyone has questions, they should text the group chat. But yeah, that's the intrinsic joy of Sukkot, and we should all be blessed to feel this simcha when we walk into the sukkah, and we should really just tap into it and take advantage of it, and yeah, have a great Sukkot. That's it.